What is going on, Pokemon fans? My name is Ashenmore, and this time I'm bringing you my Week 7 battle against Sin and his Toronto Tyrantrums. Now, the last 3 games I'm going to be playing in this league are against the bottom-ranked teams, but don't let that fool you. Every single person here is a capable battler, and I can definitely drop some of these. In order to make playoffs, which is our goal, I think we could drop one of the games, but obviously we're going to try to win all of them. And of the last 3 games we have to play, I think this matchup is by far the most difficult. Mostly I'm going to attribute that to Mew. Mew. That's going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. But on top of that, he also has a couple of other offensive threats. For instance, Mamoswine is going to prevent me from bringing the Salamence once again. And while I'm on that subject, let's talk about Salamence. So I know I have it here, but I've only brought it to 1 battle so far. That's because every single week, I look at the matchup, and I'm like, wow, Salamence really sucks here, so I'm not going to bring it. Will I trade it off? I probably should. I probably should have traded it off week 3 or week 4. But for now, I still have it. I might think about getting rid of it after this week. I don't know. Besides the Mew and the Mamoswine, he also has Stakataka, which is kind of weird. Toucannon, with its signature move, can kind of put a little bit of a kink in my plans to use Mega Kangaskhan. And then Scarf Gengar, or some offensive variant of Gengar, could do a lot of work to my defensive core. And in fact, any of my mons being able to hit them super effectively with coverage moves. So we're going to have an answer for that as well. For this battle, when we're talking win conditions, I had a couple of different ideas. I wanted to try out Dragon Dance Scrafty. I thought that did fairly well against his team. He has a lot of stuff that is weak to fighting, so I thought, why not do it? Depending on his Mew build, we could also potentially Dragon Dance in front of a Mew. At a +1, we would outspeed Mew, and then we'd be able to kill it with Crunch. Potentially, it would be a 2 HKO if he's a defensive variant. This kind of build also allows us to switch in against offensive Shadow Balls off of Gengar. Now for an item, I thought about Leftovers, but I'm going to be running Roselli Berry, and that's mainly because defensive Mew can carry Fairy coverage, Shaman can carry Dazzling Gleam, Gengar can carry Dazzling Gleam. He has a lot of different one-off Fairy coverage moves he can use, and this can allow me to live through that and start taking his team out. The other win condition I'm going to be running is going to be a somewhat bulky Sub-Roost Kyurem. I haven't run Kyurem this way just yet, but we have just enough speed to outspeed Mega Altaria, the base 80s, so that'll outspeed Mamoswine as well. Ice Beam will kill a lot of different things on his team. It will one-shot any variant of Mega Altaria he can bring, and we could potentially force out defensive Shaman. Earth Power is mostly there to hit the Incineroar, which I really think he will bring, and also to hit the Gengar and the Stakataka, which otherwise would resist Ice Beam. Now, an important thing to consider here is that Scrafty doesn't really kill a lot of stuff at +1. He needs a little bit of residual damage. So I'm going to be running Forretress. He's pretty much going to be here as a dedicated Suicide Hazard lead with a Custap Berry. So the idea will be to put Stealth Rocks up turn 1, regardless of what he actually has, and then to either preserve it as a sacrifice later, or to go ahead and go for the spikes. In any event, if he happens to switch out when I go for the Stealth Rocks, we can preserve it for later to go for a Gyro Ball against Mega Altaria. There's not really anything he can do to stop me from doing that. In order to keep those hazards up, I do think he's going to run Hitmontop, and probably a defensive Hitmontop with Rapid Spin. I'm going to be bringing Mismagius for the first time this week, specifically to block spins. Now, it's going to be Choice Scarf. This is to outspeed any Gengar that might not be Choice Scarfed. Pretty obvious coverage. The only odd move is going to be Destiny Bond. I feel like if I put Mismagius in against something and I know it's going to die against it, I can just go for the Destiny Bond, take it out with me, boom. As usual, and I hate saying that, but it's true, I'm going to be relying on Finny for a lot of my defensive role. However, we're going to be running a little bit of an oddball set on the Finny this time around. I'm going to be going with Trick Black Sludge. So I think if I put the Finny in front of the Mamoswine or the Incineroar, very, very likely he's going to switch out into a defensive Shaman, a Rotom-Wash, or a Mew. If I put the Finny out and I go for a Trick, and I get a Black Sludge onto any of those things, that is going to do so much work in the long run for me in taking those things' HP out. And hopefully, in the case of all those tanks, they'll be running Leftovers, and then I can get the Leftovers onto Finny while also crippling them. Trick could also be helpful to get a Scarf off of the Mamoswine or the Gengar if they come in against me, or if they decide to stay in against me, and then I can use said Scarf to reverse sweep them. And of course in the last slot, because he has so many tanks that I think he's going to bring, I think Mega Kangaskhan is definitely a safe bet once again. I am not maximally investing in speed to speed tie the Shaman and the Mew. I don't think there's any reason to do that because I am not a fan of 50-50 speed ties. I think we should be going for a strategy that's more reliable than that. So just enough speed to outspeed rotom-wash if it's maximally speed invested. Otherwise, pretty much a standard set. Drain, power-up punch, return, sucker punch. That should be able to take out pretty much everything. The only thing we're really going to have to watch out for is Focus Blast off of Gengar. Now, if we can get that Black Sludge onto a tank, if we can put up our hazards and keep them up, and then if we can prevent something like a Mega Altaria from getting a +2 Dragon Dance, which should absolutely never happen, we should be able to win this game, or at least we should be able to make it very, very competitive. So we'll go ahead and get into this matchup and see how we do. In Team Select, I realize he doesn't have Gengar, and this is the most surprising thing to me. Also, Mega Altaria didn't come along. Now, we've already decided what our opening play is going to be. We're going to put out the Virdian, and we're going to go for Stealth Rocks, followed most likely by Spikes, or switching out and preserving ourselves as a sack later on. So, I'm going to do exactly that. He opts to leave with the Shaman. I kind of thought he was going to go for maybe the Mew, but he doesn't. Obviously, he shows HP Fire, and we also see that he is Life Orb, so he's an offensive Shaman. So we go ahead and get Stealth Rock. Now, I thought he would go ahead and go directly into the Hitmontop, expecting I was going to go for Spikes and just going ahead and going for Rapid Spin, because that would kill the Virdian or force it out at this point. So I actually opt to go for a Volt Switch. I probably should have gone for a hard switch or just gone for the Spikes. I really debated on just going for the Spikes, but then again, I wanted to switch into the Mismagius, expecting that the Hitmontop was probably going to come in. So I'm going to let Mismagius eat a Hidden Power Fire. According to my calculations, I can take an HP Fire and I can take a Seed Flare, and I should be able to do half of this thing's HP with Shadow Ball. So I don't think there's anything really wrong with this play at this point. He goes for the Seed Flare, which I pretty much predicted was going to happen, and then Mismagius dies. But I put just enough HP investment that I would live through this situation. So I don't know if I forgot to calc the Life Orb in, because I was pretty sure I calced the Life Orb, or what exactly. Now, I assume he's going for Synthesis. Obviously, this is not very good at this point. He goes for the Synthesis. I'm okay with that. I send out Scrafty. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for Dragon Dance. If he has Dazzling Gleam, which I assume is his last move, he might have gone ahead and used it right there, at which point I could kill him with the Poison Jab. As it is, at +1, it is a roll, I believe, to kill. We don't get the roll, unfortunately, so Scrafty is going to eat absolute ton of damage here. Seed Flare, just, terrible. I hate it. He's going to dive to the Life Orb recoil, so we do get rid of the Shaman. That's great, but one of our win conditions is now fairly damaged. Now, the Rotom, it could go for something like the Will-O-Wisp, but I don't think it will. I think he's more likely to go for Volt Switch, in which case I'm faster and I can regain some HP, take him down a little bit with my Drain Punch. So he is going to Volt Switch out. I assume at this point he is going to go into that Hitmontop, which I now cannot spin block, but because I outspeed it, he is going to have to go for Bullet or Mach Punch in order to kill me. If he doesn't, I'm going to get some valuable chip damage. I don't really think there's any reason to switch into anything else right here, so I just go ahead, stay in, let Scrafty go down. He's kind of done his job. He can't really switch in on anything anymore. Can't D-dance against anything, so not really any reason to do anything else there. I'm going to go straight into Finny. If he decides to stay in, he's going to get a Black Sludge. More often than not, he's going to go into rotom-wash, or he's going to go into Mew here. Either way, one of those is getting Black Sludged, unless, of course, it's the Mew and it's Z Crystal. But judging by what I see on his team, I don't really think that's the case. I think he's going to be running a defensive variant of Mew, and he is. He's actually running Misty Seed Mew. So we're not going to get leftovers off of this, but luckily he's not Z, so he's going to get the lovely Black Sludge. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking we should probably scout what this Mew is going to do. I thought about clicking Moonblast, but I think that he's probably going to be carrying Gunk Shot or Sludge Bomb, and he's going to really want that chip damage right now. He actually goes for Bulk Up. So Virdian is going to waste 2 turns of chip damage there, and we're going to see what his recovery move happens to be. If his recovery move is Roost or Soft Boiled, that's going to be a bad deal. But once I see Bulk Up, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Drain Punch, and it is Drain Punch, so we're going to confirm that. I can take a +1. I can take any poison move he can do here, so the Gunk Shot, I can take it. I can hit him with Moonblast. As long as he's not gaining any HP here, I'm good to go, because then I can clean him up with the Kangaskhan Sucker Punch afterwards if I have to. But he actually ends up missing his first Gunk Shot here. I'm okay with that. I can survive the second one if it actually does connect, and he ends up missing again. So RNG kind of paying us back for not getting the roll on that Poison Jab earlier. And we are going to take out the Mew. That's pretty great. At this point, I'm not really sure what he's going to go into. Probably the Rotom-wash. So my thought is, yeah, he goes into the Rotom-wash. And he's probably going to Volt Switch out. And even if he doesn't, well, he probably will. I don't have anything that really wants to eat a Volt Switch. I really don't want to put my Kyurem in there right now and allow him to get free momentum. So I just go ahead and go for the Moonblast on this Rotom. And yeah, it's going to do a fair bit of damage. The Rotom is defensively invested. That was another benefit of hitting it earlier with the Drain Punch. So I know it's not going to do too much damage with the Volt Switch. Here, I think maybe he's going to stay in after seeing that Pain Split. And I'm just going to go straight for the Trick. That'll ruin something, or it'll get me leftovers, one or the other. So he actually goes in the Mamoswine. A combination of Rocks plus Surf actually is a roll to kill this Mamoswine. So if he's carrying Choice Scarf, as I suspect, which he is, we have a good chance of just taking it out right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the opportunity and go for it. Nothing I have wants to switch into this anyway, and I really need to just get a ton of damage on it, so why not go ahead and just get that done right now? Yeah, so we don't take it out, unfortunately. We're getting paid back for those 2 Gunk Shot misses by missing our rolls. That's just the way the game goes. It's variance, right? Here, though, we have 2 Mons left. Kangaskhan can clean up here, or at least it can do a lot of work. There's no reason not to just go for Power Up Punch. If he stays in, if he decides to go for Ice Shard, that's not going to be good for him. But he actually opts to go into the Incineroar. I understand that play. Go ahead, click Power Up Punch. Now, it's going to do a little bit more damage than I expect it would do to a defensive variant of Incineroar. And this tells me that he might be Scarf or he might be Banded. He might actually just be a Swords Dance build. I don't know. But I don't want to take any unnecessary damage from this Incineroar right now. Because as it stands, a defensive Hitmontop with High Jump Kick or with close combat cannot kill this Kangaskhan. That's all I need right now. I just need a little bit of HP. That's it. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish the Incineroar off with Drain Punch. Now, Hitmontop comes in. My thought process is I could click Return, and I could probably 2 HKO him with Return, and that might be fine. But why not just go ahead and go for the W here and go for Power Up Punch again? Now, maybe he predicts that I'm going to switch, and he goes for something else. I don't know. But I should be able to survive whatever hit is coming through here. So he goes for High Jump Kick, and I'm expecting I'm going to survive at about 5% HP. But I die. Now, I know I calculated this one correct, and I know he didn't have Life Orb because he hit me earlier. So that means he was Choice Banded. Choice Banded, High Jump Kick. Very, very risky. Now, we can still win this battle. We can still win. Mamoswine's low. Rotom is low. Rotom can't do more than 25%, so he can't break my sub. All we need is with this Hitmontop to miss a High Jump Kick. So that's what the rest of this battle is going to consist of, is the Substitute and him hitting every single one of the High Jump Kicks. So we are going to take a 3-0 loss here, unfortunately. It was a lot closer than that, though. Honestly, the biggest mistake in that late game was not just hitting Return against this Hitmontop. I realized once I hit the Power Up Punch and it did more damage than I expected that something was wrong. If I had hit the Return, he would have been at about a 1/3 HP, which would have been in range of him dying to Ice Beam. And at that point, Kyurem could have cleaned up the rest of the game with Roost and Substitute and Ice Beam alone. So we would have been able to deal with the Rotom, we would have been able to deal with the Mamoswine. Unfortunately, that's not the way it went. But beyond this late game fiasco of me hitting the Power Punch instead of the return, the early game, right? If I had hit Spikes on the Forretress instead of going for the Volt Switch, or had I simply hard switched out instead and been able to put the Spikes up later against the Mew, we would have seen an entirely different game. That Hitmontop would have been chipped twice with Spikes damage, and then it would have been a lot more intuitive to go for the return. Also, we would have just got chip damage on everything else. We would have been able to kill the Mamoswine off with the Scarf, and we'd have had the Finny, so we could have switched it in against that Hitmontop later on. Yeah, going for the Spikes earlier on and just letting the Forretress go down was probably the best play that we could have done in that early game different. The other big thing is just letting Mismagius die for literally no reason. That was another great switch into the Hitmontop later on. It could have cleaned up the game at that point. I'm not sure how our calculation went wrong. I really thought that I was going to survive the Seed Flare, and I didn't. So had I just gone for Spikes, and then instead of switching in the Mismagius, just putting in the Kyurem, threatening that Shaman out with the Ice Beam, I think we would have been looking at an entirely different game, because we would have kept all that HP on the Scrafty, been able to use it later on. Darn, this is not a game I could afford to lose. And unfortunately, yeah, just two really bad plays there. A lot of our tech worked out though, and despite the early misplays, I think I did fairly well. I mean, the fact that I could still win at that point in the game kind of speaks to prep being fine. Just the navigation was a bit lacking. So that officially puts us at a negative record. I'm now 3-4, so the best I can do is 5-4. That means that getting into playoffs at this point is going to be very tough, and my differential is also slightly negative now, so that's not going to help me either. We absolutely have to win the next two games. I've never not made playoffs in a league, and if I don't make playoffs in this one, I'm going to be a little bit sad, I'm not going to lie. So next week, I'm going to be playing the Outback Komalas, which actually has a new coach in this league, Jetman. I'm actually playing Jetman in Elite Master Battle Association this week as well. So 2 games, and we'll see who wins. But in closing, GG to Sin, the Misty Seed, great prep. The offensive Shaman I thought was really good. I thought he navigated that battle really well. And I just wanted to say, Choice Banded Hitmontop is a bold and brave set. And so I say, GG. Unfortunately, that's 2 games in a row that I've kind of lost to things that I just did not expect. So I'm going to have to think a little bit more outside the box for the next 2 weeks. Make sure that I'm really aware of what everything can do. Make sure that I can scout the things that I need to scout so that I can avoid situations like these. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.